Hello, welcome. We're really glad that you have joined us for this program. What you are watching is Youth Issues. It's a program in which we discuss matters that are really significant, important. I would even say essential to the way that we live and the way we see ourselves and the others. Now, you might disagree with me, but in order to do that in an informed way, you would have to stick with us for the entire program. You're most welcome. Now, today, in addition to me, I have Christopher here in the studio. My name is Gert, and we'll be talking about creativity. Before we actually get down to the topic though, let's have a look at what some of our friends thought of the matter, what they first thought of when they heard the word creativity.
So when I think about creativity, I often think about cooking. I think about putting all the different flavours together and kind of creating all these different colours on the plate and seeing what you can kind of make out of a dish. I also think about reading a book. And often you think reading a book is about somebody else's creativity, but I've often found ways that you can be creative in reading. So for example, like going to different places and trying to experience what the book's talking about, maybe by associating it with a different place.
There you go. Creativity seems to ring a bell and kind of bring in certain topics as first and very strong. Now, you might think of arts, you might think of visual arts or sculptures, you might think of perhaps dancing or music, you might think of poems. What is your relationship to all these first things that come to people's head when they think of creativity?
Well, the obvious thing is I enjoy those forms of art. Ever since I was a young boy, I loved drawing, and so I was always doodling something. I think this is why I struggled at school, because I was drawing on pieces of paper instead of paying attention to the teacher.
Oh no.
I apologize to the teachers out there. But besides that, when I got to Sweden, I really felt like I wanted to connect with that side of myself again. So I studied two years at a community college. So it's quite laid back, nothing very professional. I mean, we really just went through the basics of artistry, you know, and it was really 2 years, two of my best years in life at that school. I would really recommend going to a school to a community college just to really connect with people. But yeah, I did that, and it was really meaningful.
Why do you find it, I mean, why did you find it so important to connect with that side of you, and why do you find it somehow, you said that you enjoyed it, it was pure pleasure.
And the reason I think specifically why I did these 2 years was that I was trying to communicate deeper meanings in the art that I presented. I always wanted my art to be meaningful, and the people that I worked with at the Spur, when I worked as a waiter, I was also doodling there, and on the back of our pad we would like write down the orders and stuff like that. I was always drawing, so I really found that was very fulfilling to do that, and to see how other people saw your creativity in action, but also saw the end product and thought like, what does this mean? You know, I drew once a hand with a sword going through it, and it's kind of maybe a little bit morbid, but there was some blood running down, but it was all in black and white, so no color, you know, and it was actually a pretty picture, you know, about that small. And people were like, what's wrong with this guy? You know, what does this mean, you know? And it was about some girl, how she had broken my heart and stuff like that, so it was a sad story, but it was fun.
Well, I actually have a similar story to tell, that people were kind of looking at something that I did and read all sorts of things into it. But I remember writing, I enjoyed writing a lot in basic school and also high school. I wrote a really miserable story in like first-person narrative about being depressed, and you know, kind of probably
I can only imagine.
You know, I was probably going through some of my hormonal imbalance that happens at a certain age in every teenager's life. But yeah, I kind of found this outlet, this artistic expression of that, and the story kind of ended with me playing around with the idea of taking some pills.
Oh dear.
Yeah, I know. And but the thing was that I was just doing that as kind of like testing, expressing. I was technically just, even you could say, not even expressing, but having fun with language and trying my way around different ideas. But my literature teacher called me to her office, and she was so scared and so worried. And you know, in this situation, you can't really, whatever you say, she would think, right, you say it now, she's covering it up, So she really read certain things into my piece of art that I did not put in there. It didn't get any worse than that. I mean, she didn't contact my parents or anything, but it took me a while to get rid of, you know, she would always be looking at me with this special attention and concern. You could see this concern in her eyes. And I mean, of course, she's a wonderful teacher because she noticed and cared, but it just wasn't there at that moment.
No, trust me, I've been misinterpreted many times for the things I've produced. You know, people think that what I've been doing is either like sexual or like really satanic or something, you know, really evil. I was playing around, and people reacted, and I think sometimes we do that, you know, just to get a reaction out of people. So.
But that's the thing. You said that being creative is about communication, and there are certain things that, certain reactions or certain messages that you can get across through artistic expression that you can never get across any other way.
Sure.
And certain emotions that you can evoke in people. And also certain emotions that you can channel yourself that you could never ever do in any other, you know, it screams for artistic approach, kind of creativity. You have to do something differently. You have to feel like you are putting things together so that something comes out of it that is greater than the things that you have put together.
Sure.
Now, okay, we've been talking about writing, and we've been talking about painting, then there's music, and we all are affected by this to a degree, and there's dance, there's the way of expressing yourself bodily. There are so many artistic categories that we can look into, and then there are those people who claim that, you know, that you and I were the artistic ones, and then there are those who are not artistic ones and who could never find their way of expressing themselves in such manners. Is that something you agree with?
Well, I think it's obvious, yes. Not everyone's an artist, you know, not everyone's a musician, and that's okay. I think there are, I mean, when we're talking about creativity, these are the obvious things that we think about. You know, we think about the arts, you know, we think about music, entertainment, you know, all poetry, all these kinds of things, and we've kind of like limited creativity to only the aesthetics, you know, and I think that we need to here try to just broaden that definition, you know. And I don't know, would you like me to just touch on what I think about that?
I desperately do, yes.
Well, these are just some thoughts, but I mean, the fact that we have lights and cameras over here, this building that we're in, all of this has been created by people. You know, creativity is much more than just artistic expression. It's much more than tickling the emotions and stuff like this. It's actually it can have very beneficial consequences to humanity, you know, that people put time and effort into using their creativity to create spaces for people to gather together and spend time with each other, whether at conferences or worship services. You have tools that are used for surgery. You know, there are many things where creativity is used all the time. Creativity at school and writing your essays, that's a creative act. That essay did not exist before you decided to embark on that journey.
But it's not only about essays, right? It's
no,
even,
of course
I mean,
not.
No, I'm just thinking that even if you put together a shopping list, you're kind of creating something.
Exactly, it can be something as basic as a shopping list, sure.
What is ultimately creativity? If you had to explain it to an alien, how would you go about it?
What is creativity? It's about creating. The obvious definition.
Wouldn't have thought of that.
No, but it's about using your individuality to come up with something that something new that hasn't been there before, and that can be expressed in a myriad of ways. My words did not exist until I expressed them. Every word that I say, every emotion that I communicate, every thought, every fear is a form of creation, and you're able to partake in that. And we're creating a dialogue here. When you spend time in community with friends, you're creating friendships, you're creating memories. So creativity is something that extends into every aspect of our lives, and it's not only for the artistic people.
That's. I think this is a comforting thought, because occasionally it seems like, I've always wanted to dance. There's something noble and beautiful in not only ballet dancing, because this is like when you say noble and beautiful, you see these swans and the tutus and whatever not. But I love hip-hop dance and looking at how a person can take something that they have and then compose a series of movements that conveys something extraordinary. And I think this is also something that we need to remember, that creativity doesn't always mean creating something that is completely unheard of before, or of something that is completely unheard of before.
But I mean it in the sense that each of us are unique.
Yeah.
So nobody could say something the way that I say it, and that doesn't mean that my way is better than your way. It just shows that in that act, there's a unique creativity there that everybody can bring. Somebody filled this glass of water, but she did it in a way that I would do it differently. She created a nice drink for me right there.
That's so beautiful. It makes all the world so special. I mean, literally, yes. I could just walk from here to the door, and you would walk from here to the door, and we would do it in different ways, right?
Yes.
Right.
I don't know how creative that is, but it
makes the world a magical place. Kind of more magical than it was before this discussion. Now, what kind of other creativity do you see there are?
We could speak about spiritual creativity, relational creativity, and practical creativity. So if we start with the practical things.
Yes, please. That sounds the most applicable.
Well, I'm not a practical person, so you're gonna have to help me here.
Okay.
But again, like if we get back to the idea that you said of creating just a list of things to do, we create schedules and plans to fulfill. These are creative acts that we're doing. We don't have to feel like, again, we think of the accolades that artistic people receive because they're so great at what they do, and I think that's kind of what pushes this idea on us that we're not as creative. Our creativity is not seen as much. But if you can enjoy the small things in life, I think that you'll stop worrying about.
Well, if you make something happen, then technically you're creative, right?
Yes, exactly. So yeah, creating schedules, creating what else is
budgets? You can create budgets.
Yes, I'll leave that to my better half.
Yeah, I would rather do that as well.
I'm really creative with spending money.
I'm good at that too.
That is a gift.
Yes. Hey,
I just wish I had more of it.
This is a creative act. To all of you shopaholics out there, you are engaging in a creative act when you're spending money.
Well done.
Yes, this is the point to take away from today. Wait, okay, so the practical one. We have a certain set of tools, we have a goal, and we have a gazillion different ways how this situation could be solved. So whatever way we go about it actually already means that we are kind of creating something out of the situation.
Sure. I mean, washing the dishes, again, a creative act. The dishes were dirty and you're creating a clean environment, or just making food.
Or just
making food is a creative act.
Definitely.
It's something, and most of the things that we do that employ our creativity are often for the benefit of other people, not just ourselves. So I think that's also something that should inspire us, and keep us thinking about how we're being creative and stuff like that.
Okay, so the second one you said was relational creativity.
Yes. Okay, so somebody I really look up to. If we think, we'd had a talk about relationships, right? And somebody that I really respect once said that every day we should, in our relationships, create an act of love. Something that does not come habitually, like the peck on the cheek, or a hug, or shaking the hand, or just saying hello to somebody. You know, these things we do out of habit, and anybody can do that. But every day that we have an opportunity to do something that is counterintuitive, an act of love, an act of kindness, an act of whatever.
Intentional
that it would never have existed if you hadn't come up with it. And in doing that, you're creating memories that will last you forever.
Oh, I can already imagine that now. What will I do? What will I do? What will I do? What will I do? And then you go like, oh no, I'm not a creative person. Oh no, our relationship is doomed.
Well, you've just created a nice, wonderful scenario for yourself.
Yeah, I'm really good at that.
No, I mean, there's no pressure. There's no pressure, but I like the idea, because it really makes it, you are kind of a creator in your circumstances, in your relationships. You know, you're finding ways, and I mean, of course, remember, trial and error. It doesn't have to be something that happens every day. Yeah. But can you imagine being able to reflect back in the day and think, I did this, and it was really nice to do that, and those memories solidify in our minds, and there's when we enjoy these special moments that we have with friends and family. You know, we create this around Christmas time. You know, around big events, birthdays and things like this. You know, we create atmospheres for relationship, and those are the memories that stick with us the longest and actually edify our relationships. And so being creative in just small ways will, again, increase our capacity to really care about the individual and just evoke those kinds of emotions that make life worth living.
Yeah, strangely enough, I mean, you don't know about this, but we, just a little before we came here to have this chat, we discussed creation and the act of creation in general in weird ways. We were talking about artificial intelligence, and we were talking about...
the movie Chappie.
Yeah, the movie Chappie, and we were also talking about... what's the monster now? Frankenstein and so on.
Yes.
And we can also talk about the ideas of creating a monster, you know, in general. The reason I just remembered all of this is that there is also a certain sense of responsibility when we acknowledge the fact that we are the creators.
Wow, yeah, it's true.
So whenever we are actually become aware of the fact that in this relationship today, I am the creator of this part of this relationship, then it actually, I mean, it's a joy, and it also reminds us that things don't just happen, they happen as a result of certain agency, which means that I'm the agent. I have the right, the pleasure, and the responsibility to actually make something happen.
Sure, and I mean, of course, sometimes things happen that are out of our control, you know, but ultimately, we ourselves can be the creators of how we choose to handle those situations. You know, the situations don't have to have us, but we can have some form of, you know, I choose to react in this way, and you're creating a completely different reality than reacting in perhaps a negative way to that situation. So.
Hey, I'm getting really excited about this topic. Parallel realities, and you get to choose those. I mean, ultimately, you get to choose out of all the options, you get to choose the one that is going to become the reality by our creative choices. I'm really getting really excited about this topic. So you mentioned also spiritual creativity. What did you mean by that?
Well, I think that all let's not say all, but many people on this planet have a longing for something spiritual in their lives, and they might not be able to put their finger on what that really is or what that means or anything like that.
Different expressions of it, right? Like
not just expressions, but experiences of the spiritual. Sam Harris is a new atheist, and he talks about spirituality. You know, he speaks about it in purely secular modes of talking about it, and that's fine. To create what I think about when it comes to spiritual creativity is creating spaces in time for you to connect with the spiritual, and if it just boils down to you creating kind of like a a safe environment where you can disconnect from the extremes of life, you know, all the stress that we experience, all the noise and everything. I think we need a secluded place sometimes. It could just be going on a walk in nature, but connecting with the other, you know. So people might not believe in the idea of the God of the Bible, but they might believe that there is something behind the reality that we experience, and there might be a longing to connect with that. And this is, even Sam Harris talks about connecting with spirituality, not the divine or something supernatural, but understanding your humanity and how we all share this experience together, and it creates an understanding of empathy, because you realize that we're all experiencing life on this planet. We are all human beings. We're all subject to this circumstances of our surroundings, and this creates I think that it creates a world of compassion if you can connect to the spiritual. And being creative spiritually, like I said, personally, I like to go on long walks and listen to talks that are meaningful to me. You know, to build data banks of memory that help me to live a healthier lifestyle. Not just that kind of a healthy lifestyle, which I definitely need, but in the way that I relate to the people around me, and being a responsible human being, taking moments where you can just reflect on your life. You know, a lot of people journal. That's a creative act. You're creating, and it's a spiritual act. You know, you're unveiling yourself in the form of words on a page, and you can look back at that and reflect on your journey and how far you've come and the experiences you've gone through, and that becomes meaningful and gives you meaning to do these kinds of things. To just take a step back and be thankful for everything that we have. You know, the blessings that we have, and also the hurts and pains that we're going through.
This sounds like a beautiful idea. First of all, what we've been discussing is that we are creative in so many more ways than just stereotypically labeled as creative arts, but we are also creative in our mundane daily lives, and there are special types of creativity, which kind of brings about the idea that we have the pleasure of creating, of making a lot of things happen around us, but also the responsibility, kind of, because when we acknowledge the fact that this is a canvas and it's empty, and lo and behold, I'm here standing with a brush and the color, then it's up to me whether I'm actually doing that or not, or what I get on the canvas. And it's a wonderful idea. I mean, even if people think that they're not creative, I don't know what you think, but even if they do, then I think it's a very healthy idea to actually look into, to even look into the arts and see that there is a lot in the arts that isn't stereotypically aesthetic at all. It's going back to where we started from. Even though we are creative on every step of our way, and we need to embrace that. If you feel like you're not artistic, you just have to kind of try and let go of the fact that you have to be artistic. You just have to express yourself, and whatever you do, probably there's a good likelihood that the worse you are in the stereotypical traditional sense, the better you are in its artistic sense these days. People would even appreciate you more. I have a bitter experience with that. I thought I really knew how to draw, and then there was this guy in my class.
There's always someone better.
No, I think they created like disastrous pictures.
Okay, all right.
But the arts, the lecturer that we had, the teacher, he really liked his expression way more, because everybody else's was too subtle, too trained, too predictable, and he had this raw ignorance about what he was doing, and I hope that he's not going to look at this program.
Well, we can hope so.
Yeah.
But if we just if I can just touch on being creative relationally, psychiatrist Richard Nice in the 80s once he took care of many couples that had gone through divorce and stuff like this, and he was just saying the benefits of actually that all couples should actually have an affair with each other. And the reason why he says this is because you are putting so much energy into creating an environment where you two can, and I mean this applies to all relationships, not just with your partner, but with friends and stuff like that, to be creative in creating events and environments where you can enjoy each other's company and really get to know each other. You know, people would put on their best clothing, people would wear the nicest perfumes, they would go to the most exotic places. You know, the relationships need that.
Now, there's a lot to take away from this discussion, it seems. First of all, apparently the entire world is your canvas. So next time you go about doing your daily stuff, remember that you need not take it for granted that it happens in a certain way. You can really make this into a creative act. Walking across the room does not need to be straight, does not need to be with equal steps. Well, I leave you to it. I'm sure that you will find ways to make that creative. But in addition to that, we should probably think about the fact that since we are creative, we also have the privilege, the joy, and the responsibility to be creative in our spirituality, in our relationships. These things really matter. Before we wrap up today, let's have a look at what Mervi has to say about the topic. What were the ideas that she wanted to share?
As I was walking through the endless halls of the museum, and as I was looking at everything that was on the display there was something that really struck me. It doesn't matter when people have lived or where they have lived. It doesn't matter the age or the culture. Everything that people have created and everything that people have made with their own hands, I realized they have turned it into art. When I read the Genesis, the beginning of the book of Genesis, where God creates human in his image, then I realize that a little bit of that also means that we have been created to be little creators.
Right. What do you think about the matter? Are you a creative person? I mean, obviously you must be in the light of what we've just been discussing, but are you a creative person in the way that you enjoy artistic expression? Or are you the type who goes about their daily lives and makes little things a little differently just to enjoy the process of creating? Do let us know. Share your ideas. Write to us at info@lifeconnect.info. We'd be thrilled to hear from you. Thank you for staying with us.